And right now the situation is tragic. 2/3 of the children are failing. 70% of the high school kids flunk a test that is based on middle school math. This is unacceptable. Do we really want to see our children so underserved by our school system? I don't think so. And I suspect that you probably agree with me on this point. I've heard lots of people giving credit to Dr. Epps for the, I believe, 4 students that just graduated from Harvard, and yet putting all the blame on the parents for the 70% of the kids who are failing. Are you really believing that 70% of Jersey City parents are lousy parents? Do we have 70% lousy parents in this room? I've met many parents in Jersey City. I've not any that don't care about the children. All the parents that I've met care a lot about the children. All the parents that I've met want the children to have excellent education. Meanwhile, our schools are at the bottom 20% of the state, and they've been there for several years. There's been no improvement since Dr. Epps took over as superintendent. If after 10 years we are this low, and by the way, for each of the last 4 years, the scores have been going slightly down. Not for the state, for the city. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable to the children of Jersey City. They deserve better. I really appreciate that Dr. Epps has been in this job, has been with the school system for 40 years, maybe more than 40 years. Certainly he knows the system inside out better than anyone else. But since the performance is so bad after such long experience, this seems to me a reason to look for somebody else rather than to keep the same person who got us to this position. As far as getting somebody else, as far as the job national search, let me take another example. Let me take a successful example. There is a lady with 2 children, the daughter of Korean immigrants, born and raised in the Midwest. She's never been a teacher. She's never been a school principal. She never lived in Washington, D.C. She was brought to be the chancellor of the school system of Washington, D.C. And immediately, the score started to go up. Immediately. And this is one of the things that I admire the most about the accomplishment of Michelle Rhee. The gap between white kids and Hispanics and African American started to shrink. All of a sudden we saw a miracle that we have not seen in Jersey City, that African American and Hispanic kids are performing as good as white kids. And by the way, Washington DC is as diverse as Jersey City. It is 50% bigger than Jersey City. And we see progress there. We don't have to go even as far as Washington, D.C. Across the river in New York City, we see the same thing. We see a school district with 1.1 million kids there. And as soon as Superintendent Chancellor Klein took over, the grades started to go up. The discrepancy between inner city schools and the leafy suburbs started to vanish. And again, what I admire most about the accomplishment of Chancellor Klein is that the difference between whites and African Americans and Hispanics is disappearing. Before we were told that African Americans, Hispanics, poor people, they don't have good parents, they can't do well. But they still have the exact same parents. The parents did not change. The disparity has disappeared. Don't we all want the exact same thing for the children of Jersey City? Don't we want all the African Americans, all the Hispanics to do as good as the white kids? Don't we want the children of Jersey City to do as well as the children in the leafy suburbs? We know that it can be done. We know that it cannot be done under the current superintendent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ronald Black.